Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Jeff. Thank you for checking out my channel, Films at Home. If you've seen my channel before, you probably know that I do a lot of 4K reviews, Blu-ray reviews, movie collection updates, all sorts of stuff. I have over 2,000 Blu-rays and 4K movies in my collection, so I have plenty to talk about. And if you're into that sort of thing, then I definitely think you'll like this channel and you should subscribe. I really appreciate that. What I'm going to do today is a little bit different from what I usually do. Typically, I just review a 4K movie, or I talk a little bit about some movies I've picked up in the last few weeks. And what I'm going to do today, since we're halfway through 2018, is I'm going to give you my top 5 4K movies for this year so far. So this gives you a pretty good idea. I did a 2017 list too, which you can see if you click the link in the description. That was a top 10 video for 2017. This is now top 5 for the first half of 2018. I'll follow up at the end of the year with another top 10 list, which includes these 5, unless I'm completely blown away by what comes out. But this gives you a good idea of what some recent releases are that you're going to really want to pick up if you're into the 4K format, or if you're just starting to think about getting into 4K and you want a few recommendations. This is a great video to watch to get some really top quality audio, visual, and just the movies themselves, you know, some really top quality picks. So stay tuned for that. Let's play the intro and get started. So I'm not going to go in any particular order. I'm not going to rank these 1 to 5. Honestly, all 5 of these movies are really great all around releases. It would be hard for me to say this one's number 1, this one's number 3. So I'm just going to run through them real quick in no particular order. But I'm going to try to go from oldest to newest, so you have an idea of when these releases came out. I'm going to start here with Blade Runner 2049. You may have seen my review of this already. One of the best 4K releases that I've seen, period. If I had to pick a number 1 all-time release, I might have to go with this one. Hard to say, but it's just beautiful. The HDR is perfect. Dolby Atmos soundtrack. I mean, I saw this in IMAX originally when it came out in theaters, and the 4K disc is as close to IMAX as you're really going to get at home with all the technical, specs and everything else that you need to really experience this movie. The 4K disc is where you're going to get that. And so I felt like I was watching it all over again. Obviously the screen isn't as big, but the colors and the sound and audio and everything is just perfect on this release, and the movie is really great. If you're a Blade Runner fan, even if you haven't seen the first one, I think you can still get into this one. The director of this movie is incredible. He's done a lot of great stuff. I won't dive too deep into what he's done, but definitely somebody to watch. And I love this movie. Great 4K disc. This came out back in January, so it's an earlier one from the year, but definitely one of my favorites. Have to have this disc if you're going into 4K and you like sci-fi movies. It's gonna just absolutely blow you away with how it looks on your TV and how it sounds across your sound system. Can't say enough good things. Go out and get this one. 100% guaranteed that you have a reference disc if this is the first one you buy with your new 4K system. Next up, I've got 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. So from a technical standpoint, this film it's really well done. The cinematography is great. Tons of great shots in here, and the HDR and the picture quality and transfer to 4K was really nice. But you're not really getting a massive upgrade over the Blu-ray. You just don't have the same visuals as Blade Runner. But I really loved this movie. I honestly thought it should have won Best Picture. I thought it was the best movie of last year in terms of Oscar movies. There were movies I liked better, but if you're looking at the awards, this was my favorite, one of the Best Picture candidates. Thought it should have won. It's a great 4K disc. It's got tons of features, and it's an excellent movie. If you haven't seen this yet, it's one that you have to see. It's so well done, and I don't think that, if you can find the Blu-ray, great, you're gonna be fine. But this 4K disc does give it that next level, does add some more depth to the picture, and there isn't a lot going on, so the fine details of 4K really shine here in some moments, and in some of the darker scenes, the HDR is gonna be really helpful. I've seen this on Blu-ray and 4K. I watched it at somebody's house on Blu-ray. And it's just not as good. Honestly, the 4K disc is a step above, and there's a lot of stuff that you sometimes can't make out, especially in the darker sequences, or you just miss something in the background, or there's a blurry shot on the Blu-ray that gets cleaned up here in the 4K. There's a lot going on that improves it, but it's also one of my favorite movies from 2017, came out on 4K in 2018, and so I highly recommend grabbing this one. You're not going to be blown away from a technical standpoint, but it does clean up nicely versus the Blu-ray, and it's a great, great movie. Next up here, this might be if I was going to give an award for most improved over Blu-ray, this is probably it. This is the 40th anniversary edition of Grease, new 4K transfer. They completely remastered it. They went back to the original sound instead of the re-released sound and audio track they did. God, it was probably 20 years ago, and they added some sound effects and cleaned some stuff up. This is the original soundtrack, completely revamped. It's the original film negative that they transferred to 4K. Paramount completely cleaned this thing up. When you compare it to the Blu-ray, it's not even close. The Blu-ray is really fuzzy, tons of grain, but it's not, you know, just film grain. It's really just digital grain. They didn't do a great job transferring it over because the 4K disc still has grain, but it's finally done. It looks like film. It looks how it should look when you have a movie from this era. It just completely blows it away though. The Atmos track, huge upgrade over what was on the Blu-ray. The HDR in the video, I mean, it looks like a brand new movie. And if you've only seen this on DVD or even on TV, even on your Blu-ray disc, this is a whole new experience. The colors are so much better. There's great scenes all throughout this movie. It's a classic movie. You guys, you know, all know that if you're into movies, but I highly recommend ditching that Blu-ray, ditching your old DVD copy, and going to find this if you have 4K, because it's not going to get much better than this. I don't know how they put out anything better than this. People might have said that when the Blu-ray came out, but if you really looked at that Blu-ray, it's really not great. It looks like a DVD transfer that just got ported over to HD, and this is an entirely new remastered edition that Paramount spent a lot of time on, and so I highly recommend grabbing Grease. This is going to be your most improved 4K disc in your collection over anything else. By far, best work that I've seen from any studio revamping an older movie into this new format. 10 out of 10 visuals. You have to get this one. Easily in my top 5, and will probably make my top 10 for the end of the year as well. The next one here is also a little bit older, not that old, about 20 years old, but another movie where there was a remaster done for 4K. They took an old movie that was filmed on film, not filmed digitally, revamped it for 4K, and really just cleaned it up. This is Braveheart, also from Paramount. So the Braveheart Blu-ray is really nice. It's a Sapphire Series Blu-ray. It's one of their kind of cornerstone Blu-rays they put out along with Saving Private Ryan, American Beauty, Gladiator. There's a few that when the Blu-ray format came out, Paramount made sure they did a top-notch job on. This is one of them, but the crazy thing is they did such a good job on the 4K that it blows away the Sapphire Series Blu-ray disc. And, you know, everything here is just improved. The film grain is so much better. The color schemes are perfect. They're as you would have seen them, you know, in the theaters as the director intended. They've really cleaned that up, gotten rid of any, you know, kind of fuzzy scenes from the Blu-ray port, cleaned that up with the high resolution here, made sure you still get some of that film grain, an excellent Dolby Atmos soundtrack, and just the HDR is just such an improvement over the Blu-ray. Even the Blu-ray disc here looks better than the older Blu-ray disc, but this 4K disc, it's seriously, you know, one of the better movies that's ever been made, and an incredible, incredible remastered 4K transfer here. Can't say enough good things about this one either. I feel like I'm just saying a lot of positive stuff, but this is the top 5 list for the year, so it is what it is. If you're into this, you know, type of movie, a few of them came out. So there is Gladiator, there is Saving Private Ryan. Paramount's been doing some new ones. Saving Private Ryan probably just missed out on this list. It would probably be 6th if I did a top, you know, 7 or 8. But Braveheart is so much better than Gladiator. If you have to choose between the two, take Braveheart over Gladiator. Braveheart and Saving Private Ryan are probably like this close, but I'd still go Braveheart. Saving Private Ryan, it has an excellent Blu-ray, so it wasn't as big a jump as Braveheart was in my opinion. But if you're going to go with any of the Sapphire Series upgrades, so far this is my choice. They did an excellent job, and it's a must-have 4K reference disc for your collection. So the last one here is something that I already reviewed on my channel. It is my most popular video of all time, so I really appreciate, you know, the support that it got. But I can't have a top 5 video without at least mentioning the new 4K transfer of The Matrix from Warner Brothers. Loved the Dolby Vision HDR on this. I thought it really improved some of those, you know, the green tint that you always get in The Matrix worked better with HDR, in my opinion. than it did on the Blu-ray. The colors just made more sense. It wasn't so obviously tinted, but it had just that green kind of background to it when they're in the Matrix, and then everything outside of the Matrix has sort of that grayish blue tint, and it just, the color schemes just work so much better when you have more information to work with, like HDR. You just have more data there. You can make the colors pop. You can make things really blend in well, and that's what this disc does really, really well. Also has the Dolby Atmos track, which is a huge part of 4K. So I haven't talked about this much, but if you're upgrading to 4K and you're only thinking, yeah, it's a higher resolution and I've got HDR, that's great. But I don't recommend many 4K discs that don't have Dolby Atmos, because that's the next step up. That's the audio step up. And then you have the visual step up with the new resolution and HDR. But think about if you bought a Blu-ray when it came out, upgraded to HD 1080p, that's wonderful, but you still had a 2.0 track, you know, it's just a basic surround track like you had on the DVD. It's not that great an upgrade. So if you're going from a 5.1 track and you go up to 4K and it's still 5.1, then all you've really done is improve some colors, improve some resolution here. And for a lot of discs, that's not going to make a big difference. So the Dolby Atmos is really important. The Matrix obviously is a great movie to show off your system. Tons of great sound effects and audio all throughout this. Overhead effects, left, right surrounds. The subwoofer is just booming the whole time. So it makes great use of the new Atmos track. And this is probably one of the best that Warner Brothers has put out. I've had some iffy quality with their releases compared to Paramount's, and Sony's also been doing a really good job. But Warner Brothers has been kind of iffy right there with Lionsgate, who just are kind of putting out titles sometimes and not thinking about what they're doing. But this is an excellent example of how to do a 4K disc right. Warner Brothers is still right up there. They're doing a great job, but they really have improved lately with stuff like The Matrix. They're finally taking some care into remastering these old movies into 4K, and you know, they've even put some 4K features on the disc here, on the 4K disc, which you don't often see. And so they're taking care of the consumer. They're making sure it's a good 4K experience. And I can't say enough good things about The Matrix either. It's one that you have to have. It's such a classic. It's probably the most well-known reference disc out there. When DVD came out, The Matrix was right around that time period when DVD got popular, and it was probably the top-selling DVD for years. It was considered a reference quality disc. Blu-ray, same thing. I have a big Matrix collection. The Blu-ray was excellent, and they've taken the next step with the 4K. This is about as good as it's ever going to get, and I know people probably said that about the Blu-ray too, but 4K is really that tipping point where you're not going to be able to see the difference, in my opinion, between a 4K and an 8K. You can definitely see the difference between 1080p Blu-ray and 4K discs, and so I recommend you upgrade. I recommend you grab The Matrix. I recommend you grab all of these movies. Braveheart, Grease, even Saving Private Ryan is definitely an honorable mention. Annihilation is another one that was really, really well done. And if you're looking for more recommendations from last year, you know, you can check out my 2017 top 10 video. There's some great recommendations in there for you as well. But this is a good starting point. If you're just getting a 4K TV, you just bought a 4K player, and you're looking to grab 4 or 5 discs to start your collection, these 5 are a great starting point for that. They're the newest technology. They're new remasters. They're really the pinnacle of what the format's become in the last couple of years. We're finally getting to a point where studios are really taking some time and care into 4K and not just pumping out 4K discs that are just upscales. So it's nice to see that technology actually being used. They're scanning them in 4K. They're taking the time to make them good releases, and those are the ones that are coming out now. Those are Braveheart, Saving Private Ryan, The Matrix, you know, those older movies that are really getting a nice remaster, Grease. And then you have the newer stuff that's obviously shot at 4K sometimes. Not everything is shot at 4K, but stuff like, you know, Blade Runner that was shot at very high resolutions. Then you can, Dunkirk's another one. You can now transfer that over to 4K very nicely. So it's a great time to be a collector. These are easily, you know, 5 of the discs you have to have. If you're getting into 4K, go find these guys. They're the ones you need. Absolutely 100% to start your collection. And if you guys have any questions, I'm always on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. You can find links down in the description to those pages. You know, send me a message. Ask me about a specific one. I can't review, you know, every single one I get. I'm still trying to catch up. So if there's one you're curious about, you know, let me know. I'll tell you my thoughts if it's worth a pickup. And just come by and say hi. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and we you know, we have a great community over there. So Make sure to check those out. And then, like I said, subscribe to the channel. Keep things going. It's been going really great. I appreciate all the support. I know I don't have the best equipment or editing skills or any of that stuff, but I do have the following. People like what I have to say, and so I appreciate anybody who cares what I have to say, and that's you guys. So thanks for watching, and until next time, this is Jeff, and I am going to sign off and watch some 4K movies.